are watching Darasa Online.
Hello students, my name is Mtinga Kengera, a commerce teacher from Babao Secondary School. We continue with our revision on commerce subjects. So today we have a very interesting topic, which is business unit. Our topic is business units. Our subtopics will be types of business units and formation of business units. So a business unit is any undertaking with the aim of producing goods and services, as well as distributing those goods and services to reach the final consumers. So business units or business undertaking can be classified as follows. Under business units, we can classify these in either private sector, under private sector, but also under public sector. Under private sector, we have the following business units. Under private sector, we have sole trade or sole proprietorship, we have partnership, we have companies, we have cooperative societies, but also we have joint venture. Under public sector, we have, under this, we have So under public sector, we have public corporations, we have parastatal bodies, and we have local government authorities. So business units, I have said, can be categorized or divided in either private sector or public sector. So those which are operating under private sector, these are owned by individuals. But those which are under public sector, these are owned by the government. Either owned by the government, or main part of these owned by the government. So the main parts which we'll cover for this lesson are as follows. Number one is so with this revision, or for today's revision, we cover the following areas. Number one being aims of business units, factors to consider when selecting a business unit. Also, we'll focus on formation of a company, different types of companies, but also we will have a revision on Tanzania Investment Center. So our first part is aim of business units. So the main aims of business units are as follows. So any business unit will aim on the following. Number one is profit making. Any business unit will focus on getting profit. Either is sole proprietorship, or is a company or partnership will focus on getting profit. But number two is business units also will focus on minimizing costs, being costs of operation. In order to get profit, you should minimize your cost of production. So these business units will aim on this, but also Another aim of any business is customer satisfaction. Under this one, different business units will aim to satisfy customers. Customers should be happy or should be comfortable with the services produced or goods produced by these business units. So these are some of the aims of business units. I'm just reminding you, there are other aims, but these are some of the aims of business units or business undertakings. Now, another part to revise is factors. Factors to consider when selecting a suitable form of a business unit to undertake. Now, as I've said before, that business units are in different forms or are more than one type. There are many types of business units. Now, what are the factors which may help you to select a suitable business unit? So number one is easy formation. So before you choose or you select, you must focus on this. There are some business units which have complicated procedures in its formation. For example, a company has got some procedures in its formation, but sole proprietorship or sole trader is very easy to be formed. So before you choose, you must consider this factor. Number two is amount of capital required and method of raising capital. You must consider this. There are some business units which need large capital. For example, a company, being a public company or a private company, need large capital. And while in sole proprietorship or sole trade with just a little capital. So before you select, you must consider this factor. But in the way of raising, for example, in public company is allowed to raise capital through the public or from the public, but private companies are not allowed. So when you form a business unit, you should consider this. Another factor is continuity of the business. You must consider this factor because there are some business units, their life are so short, while other business units, they have a long life. For example, in partnership, once a partner dies, so the business also dies. While in a company, there is no limit, and the owner can die, or the owner may die, while the company continue its operations or activities. Another one is the nature and extent of liability of members of the business undertaking. So you must consider the liability. There are some business units, their liabilities are limited, while other business units, they have unlimited liability. For example, companies, their liabilities are limited, while a sole proprietorship and partnership, they have unlimited liability, while companies have limited liability. So you must consider this. Limited the amount of capital or shares for a case of a company, limited to the amount of shares owned by such a person, while these sole proprietorship and partnership, their property can be used to pay the debt of the business, while in company, someone property or assets cannot be used to pay the debt of the company. Another factor to consider is maintenance of the business secrets. In some business units, secrets of the business is maintained. For example, in sole proprietorship, the secrets can be maintained because the owner is not required by the law to publish his or her financial statements. But in a company, especially public companies, they are required by law to publish their financial statements. So under these companies, there is no secret. So your assets will be known, your liability will be known by the public. So before you choose or you select, you must consider that factor. Another one is the essence of risk involved in running the business. There are some businesses which are more risk than other business. And there are some businesses whereby risks are shared by the owner himself or herself, only the owner. But some business risks can be shared by many people. For example, in company, risks will be shared by many people because under company there are more. In public company you can have even 100 members, but in sole proprietorship only one person. So this person take all the risk, but in public companies risks can be shared by big number of people. So my dear students, before you make a selection or a choice in which business to start or to operate, you must consider these factors. These are very, very important factors. So a question of interest can be asked here, that what are the factors to be considered for choosing a suitable form of business unit or business undertaking? So these are the factors to be considered before or when you are selecting a type of business undertaking. So after this, our revision will focus more on one of those types of business units, which is a company. So company is a legal person. The law defines a company as a legal person who can own property. So a company can own property. A company can be in debts. A company can sue. A company can be sued. So a company stands as a legal person, but with the aim of producing goods and services. So a company is a business unit with the aim of producing goods or services, or goods and services with the aim of getting profit. So my dear students, company can be classified in the following ways. There are different ways in which a company can be classified. Now, basing on liability of a company, basing on liability of members, we have limited, And we have unlimited. So based on the liability of members, we have limited liability companies and unlimited liability companies. So under these limited liability companies, we mean that liability of members is limited to the amount of shares owned by them in that company or amount of capital guaranteed. So either under this we have in shares owned by these members or by the amount guaranteed. So it means members' assets will never be involved in paying companies' debts. So under this one, only shares which are owned by these members will be liable to pay the debts of the company, or the amount guaranteed for those companies which have no share capital. The members may guarantee or give a promise on the amount of money they may contribute in case a company is in debt. But unlimited liability companies, which are very, very rare in our country, we don't have such companies. So this it means there is no way your assets are excluded from the debts of the company. So your personal assets can be used to pay debts of the company. So another classification can base on incorporation. Under this we have registered companies and we have statutory companies. So under registered companies here, we mean that are those companies which must be registered by a company's registrar. For our country is BREDA. So these companies are registered at BREDA. While statutory companies, these are formed by the Act of the Parliament. So these registered companies can either be private companies or public companies. While these statutory companies, these are formed by the Act of the Parliament. These are formed to provide those essential services. Statutory companies are formed for the aim of providing essential services like electricity or water and other social services which are very, very essential to the member of public. On the basis of ownership, we have public companies but also we have private companies as well as government companies. So this is on the basis of ownership. So under this one we have public companies. Under public companies means any member of a public can get ownership in this company. So this is where members of public have an opportunity to invest in these companies. While private companies, these are type of companies which are owned by private individuals, and therefore members of public have no chance in investing in these companies. Their number are limited. Under private companies, the maximum number is 50, while in public companies, no limit for its number. It means any number, any amount, no limit in public company. While in government companies, these are owned by the government. Or either the whole company is owned by the government, or the large part of ownership is owned by the government. So my dear students, these are different ways in which companies can be classified. So either basing on the ownership, or in incorporation, or by liability of members. Yeah, now let's see the main stages involved in formation of a company. Now a company passes through stages in its formation. Now number one is promotion. Stages in the formation of a company. So number one is promotion stage. Number two is incorporation. Number three is and the last stage is a commencement of business. Now these are the main stages in the formation of a company. Number one is promotion stage. Number two, incorporation stage. Number three, capital flotation or subscription. And the last stage is commencement of business. Now, my dear students, something to remind you is public companies are passing in all these four stages, from promotion stage to commencement of business, while private companies are passing through two main stages, which are promotion stage and incorporation stage. Now the point to remember here is, under private companies, once they have passed in this stage of promotion, then when they come for stage number two, incorporation stage, they may be allowed or they may start business. But public companies should pass through all these four stages. Now in promotion stage, this is very, very important stage in which a company start by promoters are those people who come with an idea of forming a company and perform other activities. So under this stage of promotion is where they come with an idea of forming a company. While in incorporation stage, this stage is where a company now is registered, is now stand as a corporate body. A company now can stand as a legal person. And in this stage of capital flotation, after a company being registered for a public company, now it can go to the public to raise capital. So that's why we are saying capital flotation or capital subscription, to subscribe capital from the public. And after raising the minimum capital, now the company can start a business, which is commencement of business. But for today's revision, let's have a look on this promotion stage. Promotion stage. Now this is the first stage in the formation of a company. Under this one, there are some 4 steps. Number 1 is number 1 is discovery of business opportunity or business idea. So you can come out with an idea, either making shoes or any idea. So this is the first stage. You discover that business opportunity or business idea. There are many ideas in this world. So you must find, or you come out with your idea or an opportunity where you can involve in production either of goods or services. But number 2 is conduct a detailed investigation. Now, after discovering of a business opportunity or idea, you must now conduct a detailed investigation. Now, this is a research. You must find out if that idea is viable or it can be done. Because some of the business fall or collapse because many people do not conduct detailed investigation or conduct a research. So you must conduct a detailed investigation or research. Number 3 is verification. Under this, after conducting a detailed investigation, now you have to use a separate team of experts to verify what have been collected or what have been researched or what has been investigated by the other team. So this is just to verify in order to remove some biasness if we are there. And the last stage is assembling of resources. Now this is the last stage in the promotion stage, that you must now collect resources ready to start a company. Now you have to collect different resources like finance and other resources which will help you when you start your company. So we are done with this stage of promotion. Now a question of interest can be: promotion of a company is one of the stages in the formation of a company. Explain the steps in this stage for a public limited company. So a question is so simple. When you understand those stages, then it will be simple for you. Just explain these stages like discovery of business, conduct detailed investigation, verification, and assembly. So some students may confuse or used to confuse when they ask about steps in this stage of promotion. They mention the stages in the formation of a company, but you have to explain only stages in promotion. Do not mention or explain those other stages in the formation of a company. Here, the question demands you to explain the steps in the promotion of a company. Hope you're okay with such a question. So another part to cover this in this session is, what are the functions performed by promoters? As I've said before, that promoters are the one who start a business or form a company or start a business. So promoters are those people who will perform or will be doing this. So these are the people who form a company. Now what are they doing? Number one is to conceive business idea or opportunity, are the one who come with an idea of forming a business. Number two, they have to conduct a preliminary analysis to determine its profitability and visibility. So they have to conduct analysis to make analysis if that business is profitable and viable. Another one, to carry out detailed investigation in order to determine the nature, scope, and requirement of the business opportunity. They have to do this to determine the nature, scope of that business. But also they have to consult various persons and persuade them to join in the proposed business as directors. Now promoters has to find out people and convince them to join this company as directors. Also appoint brokers, underwriters, and bankers for the company. They have to appoint brokers, underwriters, and bankers for the company. You have to, as a company should, a company should have its own bank, but also underwriters as well as brokers. Now those people will be doing business on behalf of the company. But promoters also get the necessary documents for registration. They have to find out those different documents for registration, like memorandum of association, article of association, and other necessary documents. And the last function, make an issue and allotment of are the one who issue shares and make allotment of those shares to raise capital of the business, capital of the company, in order company to run. So a question may be asked in this part, that explain the main functions performed by promoters. So my dear students, these are the main functions performed by promoters. As I've said before, promoters are the people who start a business, start a company. So this, hope you have understood this and you're able to answer any question regarding this part. When a company needs registration or to be registered, it must have necessary documents. And these documents are the documents which will be needed or required by BRERA. Now BRERA is the one who deal with registration of a company or registration of different companies. So BRERA is business, registration, licensing authority. So the one which register business companies. So what are the documents which are needed by BRELA for a company to be registered? Number one is Memorandum of Association. Number two, Article of Association, prospectus, list of directors, but also a declaration. Now this document, Memorandum of Association, is very, very important document. Now this one, Memorandum of Association, is the document which defines the power and limitation of a company. It's the one which will show the objectives of a company. It's the one which will give a limit to a company, that a company will be doing this, this, and this, and not that and that one. While Article of Association, this one is for internal operation, while Memorandum of Association is for external use. Now, as outsiders, if outsiders need any issue regarding the company, when they see the memorandum, they will understand each and everything. But Article of Association is dealing with internal operation. While prospectus is there when a company needs to issue shares to the public, it must issue a prospectus. Now, prospectus explain each and everything about the company. So anyone who needs to know a company, when pass through a prospectus, will know each and everything. Then list of directors. This is a list where directors have been mentioned and they have signed in that document, but also a declaration whereby different members, they have to show their commitment, to show that they are committed in that company and they are serious with the company. So they have to sign such a document. So my dear students, these are documents which are needed by BRELA for registration of a company. Now let's have a look on this document, Memorandum of Association. Now what are the main contents in Memorandum of Association? Now the main contents in Memorandum of Association are as the following. One is name clause. Now this shows the name of a company, because you have different companies. So you have to distinguish your company from other company just using your name. The name of that company will make a clear distinction between this company and that company. Another one is tuition clause. This shows the location of a company, where the company is found, in which region, in which street. While the objects clause, this show the main objective of that company, the aim of the company, what the company is doing. So this will be seen in object clause. Then capital clause, this show the capital of the company. Now under this clause, capital clause, you will see the authorized capital of the company, but also the minimum capital of the company, in case, because before registration, a company should raise a minimum capital. It must write that capital that a company can be issued with a certificate of trading. Liability clause, this show the liability of a company, that this is a limited company, either being limited by shares or by amount guaranteed. And the last one is declaration clause, which will show the declaration of members, showing their commitment in that company by signing that document. So my dear students, these are contents of Memorandum of Association. Now a question of interest here is, one of the important documents needed by BRELA for a company registration is Memorandum of Association. Elaborate the relevance of this document. So you answer this question by showing those contents and show the relevance of each content. For example, the name. What the relevance of a name in the Memorandum of Association? Or what is the relevance of liability to show that this company is limited liability, meaning that personal property will not be touched in case of liability of the company. So another part to remind you in this session is features of a company. Now, these are the basic features of a company: limited liability, separate legal existence, perpetual succession, common seal, separation of control and ownership, also transferability of shares. And a limited liability show that a company is limited liability, meaning that personal property will not be involved in case of liability of the company. So liability is limited to the amount of shares members owning the company, or amount limited to amount guaranteed. While in separate legal existence means a company has got separate legal existence with its members. So a company stands on its own and members are there. So there is a separate legal existence. Perpetual succession, that a company has been created by the law. Only the law will bring the company to an end. Not the death of members. A member may die, but the company will continue. Common seal, a company must have an official signature. All documents of the company will be signed, or common seal will be used to step on those documents. Separation of control and ownership. This means that there is no way members can have a control in a company. So control is under directors and ownership is under owners of the company. Transferability of shares. Shares of a public company are free transferable, while shares of a private company need an approval to some members in order to transfer those shares. Now, a question can be asked in this way: analyze common features which are observed in both private company and public company. So those features I have explained are observed in both private company and public companies. But in the case of transferability of shares, under this you must make it clear that shares of public company are free transferable, while under private company transferability needs an approval of other members. Now, another thing to remind you is difference between private company and a public company. So public companies and a private company differ in the following ways. Number one, minimum number and maximum number of members. In private company, minimum number is 2 and maximum number is 50, while in a public company minimum number is 7, while there is no limit number in public company. Public invitation for capital subscription. In a private company, they are not allowed to go for a public to subscribe for capital, while public company have that opportunity to go to the public and raise capital. In commencement of business, in private sector, they may commence business in the second stage. After incorporation stage, they may start their business. While under public companies, they will start a business or trading after getting a certificate of trading, which is obtained in the fourth stage. Private companies are not required. It's not a must for a private company to have a prospectus, while a public company is a must to have a prospectus. Statutory meeting and statutory reports requirement. Private companies is not a must for them to have a statutory meeting or statutory report, but for a public company is a must. They are required by law to have a statutory meeting and to prepare a statutory report. They are required by law, public companies, but private companies is not a must. So a question of interest here is how a person can differentiate a private company from a public company. So you differentiate a private company from public company by using those points I have explained. Now these are the points to use when you distinguish between a private company and a public company. Another part to cover this in this session is Tanzania Investment Center, or TIC. Now, you know, these companies and other business can get assistance or are helped by Tanzania Investment Center. Now, when you start a business and you need some advice on the business you want to start, then just go or communicate with Tanzania Investment Center. Now, Tanzania Investment Center play the following roles. Number one is to promote investment for both local and foreign in the country. Now, it promotes investment by giving advice to investors, giving guidelines. They guide them in the best investment, but also to facilitate investors from the very initial stage of their investment. They facilitate traders or investors in their start. When they start, then they are helped by this Tanzania Investment Center, but also to give investors aftercare services by visiting them and see if they have any problem. They usually visit those investors and then they visit them to see if they are progressing well or not. But also they give advice to the government on investment policy issues. So this one, the government is getting advice from Tanzania Investment Center regarding those issues concerning with investment. So those are the main functions or roles played by Tanzania Investment Center. Hope you have enjoyed this program, and therefore let me give you some questions as an assignment, so that when we meet next lesson, we will have some explanation on some of those questions, but you have to try them when you are at home. Question number 5 is, explain how Tanzania Investment Center helps different investors in the country. So you should explain how Tanzania Investment Center help different investors in the country. So here is just you explain the roles which I have explained. Another question is, elaborate the role played by Business Registration and Licensing Authority BRELA in promoting business in Tanzania. So take this as your homework. Try to find those role played by BRELA. As I've said, this is the one which is responsible for registration of companies, but also give licensing business. So there are other roles played by BRELA. So I give you this as your homework or an assignment. So thank you, my dear students. Hope you have enjoyed this lesson, and I welcome you to the next lesson, where we'll be having a very interesting subtopic on business unit in the dissolution of different
wakakaza na mwendo
yale mawazo ya kila mmoja nafikiri kwamba kuna watu watakuja kutupa misaada, tuyapoteze kichwani. Ule ni ugonjwa mkubwa. kwamba kile unachotaka kusema hatujapata mkopo kutoka watu, hakuna lolote. Tumekopa mno tangu tupate uhuru, tumewategemea mno. Tuna wajibu sasa wa kujipanga.